Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some significant news. Princess Diana's letters expose Camilla and Charles's hidden flaws shocked everyone. A source within Buckingham Castle stated that the castle is in turmoil after Princess Diana's intimate letter written before her death exposed the terrible truth about her relationship with Charles and Camilla. These letters revealed the horrific reality about bullying, betraying, and manipulating Princess Diana's image. In this video, we'll find out why this revelation might have stunned Camilla and King Charles, who had to confront the reality about Princess Diana's murder. How could the palace maintain this secrecy for such an extended period? What Princess Diana's letters don't tell you. The secret letters of Princess Diana that are finally coming to light tell a heartbreaking story of betrayal, deceit, and emotional neglect that affected her troubled marriage to King Charles. These papers provide a very intimate and uncensored look at how the royal family works, showing how much stress Diana had to deal with as both a public figure and a wife. Instead of the sensationalized stories that tabloids tend to tell, these letters provide a personal and heartbreaking look at the psychological warfare that was fought against her. Camilla Parker Bowles was at the core of all this trouble. Her influence on King Charles was far more harmful than many had thought before. Diana's statements show that there was a planned attempt to manipulate her emotions, which made her feel weak and alone in her marriage. Diana's letters often spoke of King Charles's emotional abuse, which made her pain much worse. Instead of helping her through her struggles with melancholy and self-doubt, Charles frequently ignored or dismissed her. Diana felt like a ghost in her life since he didn't care about her feelings. She was stuck in a marriage where her emotional needs were disregarded. The continual attention from the public only made her feel more alone, as she was supposed to keep up a calm and dignified front, even while things were going wrong behind the scenes. These letters portray a scary picture of a woman trying to keep her individuality in a system that wanted to silence her. Diana's words show that the royal family doesn't care, which is much more disturbing than her own personal tragedy. Instead of becoming involved in the unhealthy dynamics of her marriage, the monarchy decided to ignore them, putting its image ahead of the health of one of its most valued members. Particularly, the Queen's complicity in allowing Camilla's power to grow makes Diana feel even more alone and abandoned. These new facts have enormous effects on the carefully crafted story of the royal family, showing how weak its basis really is. These letters make us rethink the monarchy's part in Diana's suffering and bring up important concerns about what power, loyalty, and love really mean in the royal family. Camilla's control over King Charles. Princess Diana's letters present a disturbing picture of Camilla Parker Bowles's deliberate control over King Charles, showing that their relationship was based on emotional manipulation and strategic control. Camilla's position in Charles's life was far more harmful than a usual affair. She used her profound knowledge of his weaknesses to keep him under her control. Diana said that Camilla took advantage of Charles's worry of not being positive enough by making him feel guilty and using emotional manipulation to keep him close to her. She would constantly bring up his prior mistakes or perceived flaws, which made him more dependent on her favor. Charles felt more and more obliged to Camilla because of this psychological manipulation. This made it almost impossible for Diana to break through the emotional walls she had built around Charles. Diana's letters also show how Camilla made herself an emotional confidant on purpose, making sure that Charles turned to her for support instead of his wife. She ensured that Charles felt more at ease talking to Camilla than to Diana, which made the princess feel even more isolated from her spouse. Diana said that Camilla had an amazing capacity to know what Charles needed emotionally and provide him comfort in exactly the manner he wanted, all while keeping him away from Diana. Diana felt like an outsider in her marriage, since Camilla's power over Charles became greater with time. Camilla's manipulation had effects that went well beyond Charles's feelings. It had a tremendous impact on the stability of his marriage. Diana wrote about how Camilla's presence put an unseen barrier between her and Charles, making it almost impossible to maintain any emotional connection. Charles would frequently go back to Camilla's circle, even when Diana tried to restore their relationship. This left Diana with the heartbreaking awareness that she was losing her husband to another woman. This deception had a tremendous emotional toll on Diana, since she couldn't understand how to love Charles while still dealing with the unpleasant fact that he was emotionally involved with Camilla. These letters show how much power Camilla had over things. She wasn't just an affair partner, she was a skilled manipulator who played a big part in the end of one of the most closely watched marriages in history. King Charles's emotional abuse. Princess Diana's letters show how emotionally abusive her marriage to King Charles was, with apathy, neglect, and a total lack of empathy. People think of the royal couple as affectionate, but Diana's private letters show a far different reality. She felt ignored, unheard, and emotionally abandoned. Charles's refusal or inability to accept her pain kept her stuck in a cycle of misery, where her emotional needs were not only unfulfilled, but also intentionally ignored. She said she felt like an afterthought in her marriage, that she was just a duty and not a beloved partner. This emotional neglect was especially difficult for her when she was dealing with melancholy and self-doubt, since Charles typically reacted to her vulnerability with chilly detachment instead of support. Diana's letters show how challenging it was for her to maintain a calm and dignified public image while dealing with problems at home. She felt even more alone since she had to hide her anguish for the sake of appearances. She had to keep up the royal family's carefully planned illusion. Instead of comforting her, Charles appeared to not care about her pain and dismissed her worries as needless or overblown. Sometimes he even used her mental pain as a weapon to push her away even further. Diana stated that when she questioned Charles about his conduct, he would frequently become quiet or blame others, which made her feel even more alone in her troubles. This habit of emotional abuse had a tremendous negative effect on her health, making her depression worse and making their marriage slowly fall apart. Charles's lack of emotional support not only worsened Diana's pain, but it also significantly contributed to the end of their relationship. She conveyed her deep affection for him through her messages, yet it became evident that he was indifferent to her feelings, leaving her to feel isolated and devalued. Charles created an emotional gap that was difficult to fill, and over time, Diana's desire for a real relationship with him eroded. Her writings show how hard it was to be married to someone who wouldn't admit she was in pain. They also believe their marriage ended due to years of emotional neglect and abuse, not just infidelity. What Camilla did to end the marriage. Princess. Diana's letters make it quite evident that Camilla Parker Bowles was not only an affair partner, she was also a major factor in the breakdown of Diana and Charles's marriage. Camilla's connection with Charles was much more than a brief affair. It was a fundamental part of his emotional and mental life, which made it almost impossible for Diana to compete. Diana said that Camilla tried to hurt her position as Charles's wife by utilizing their lengthy history together to make him lose faith in her and stop caring about their marriage. She didn't just lurk in the shadows. She made Diana feel even more alone, which kept Charles emotionally tied to her. Diana's writing shows that she was quite aware of Camilla's plans to ruin their relationship. She said that Camilla wasn't content with only Charles's love. She wanted to be in charge of his whole emotional universe. Camilla made sure that Charles would always come back to her by making him feel insecure and making herself his main confidant. This was true even when Diana tried to repair their marriage. The incident set off a bad cycle in which Charles would try to make up with Diana for a short time, but Camilla's emotional manipulation would pull him back into her circle. Over time, this constant stress weakened the basis of Diana and Charles's relationship, making Diana feel helpless against someone who was successful at psychological warfare. King Charles's cheating. There is no mistake about it. Princess Diana's letters show that King Charles cheated on her with Camilla Parker Bowles, which ruined their marriage. Diana spoke about how devastated she was when she found out about the affair, saying it made her feel like she had been abandoned and rejected. She kept saying that Charles's connection with Camilla was not just a sexual violation, but also an emotional one, making her feel completely invisible in her marriage. Diana described how Charles would often lapse into extended silences, focusing his attention on Camilla, making her feel like an outsider in a relationship meant to be founded on love and companionship. Despite facing significant mental pain, Diana dedicated years to preserving their marriage, confident that Charles would choose her over Camilla. But her letters show the bitter truth that Charles didn't want to halt the affair. Instead, he let it grow and ruin their relationship. He did not express remorse for the pain he inflicted, and when she addressed the issue, he often dismissed her concerns or placed the blame on her. Diana tried to fix things, but their inability to take responsibility made it impossible for them to get along. The affair was the worst thing that had happened to their marriage. It caused Diana constant pain that she couldn't get away from no matter how hard she tried to correct things. What the Queen knew about the affair. One of the most heartbreaking things Princess Diana learned from her private letters was that she thought Queen Elizabeth II knew everything about King Charles's romance with Camilla Parker Bowles, but decided to do nothing about it. Diana wrote about how deeply she felt abandoned and thought that the Queen, as the head of the royal family, should have stepped in. Instead, she saw the Queen's silence as an agreement, an unwillingness to admit or confront the emotional and mental toll the affair was having on her. Diana's statements show how frustrated she was that the monarchy put public image ahead of personal health, which made her feel more and more alone in her pain. Diana said that the Queen's lack of action conveyed a clear message: the monarchy cared more about maintaining its reputation than the mental health of its people. This understanding made Diana feel even more alone, since she was having trouble reconciling the obligation of always doing her job with the fact that she was going through many personal problems. The Queen stayed neutral instead of helping or trying to settle the conflict. She didn't want to upset the delicate balance of royal politics. Diana perceived this lack of interest as a fundamental betrayal, leading her to believe that the institution she had married into had no regard for her. Camilla didn't care about Princess Diana's feelings. Princess Diana's letters show how cruelly Camilla Parker Bowles didn't care about her mental well-being. They show that Camilla not only neglected Diana's pain, but also appeared to enjoy worsening it. Camilla's relationship with King Charles was not a covert romance that happened behind closed doors. Instead, it was open and public, with little thought for how it hurt Diana. Diana wrote about how Camilla would shamelessly go to royal functions and act as if nothing was wrong, as if Diana's presence was an afterthought. Instead of trying to keep things quiet, Camilla appeared keen to show her dominance and make it plain that she had a place of power in Charles's life that Diana could never get back. Diana's letters also show how much she suffered mentally because of Camilla's lack of compassion. She wrote about how Camilla would frequently show off her friendship with Charles, which made Diana feel like an outsider in her marriage. They didn't try to protect her from the truth about their affair. There was no pretense of politeness or care for her feelings. Camilla's actions, on the other hand, showed that she didn't care at all about the harm she was doing. This left Diana with the sad knowledge that the woman who had snatched her husband's love didn't care about the devastation she had done. King Charles's lack of regret. One of the saddest things about Princess Diana's letters is how often she talks about how King Charles never showed any regret for what he did. Diana said that Charles didn't care about her pain, unlike a husband who could apologize or try to repair a damaged relationship. He never completely understood how deeply he had betrayed her, and he never really tried to make things right. Instead, he frequently told her that her grief was too much or not needed, which made them even more emotionally distant. Diana wrote about how Charles avoided taking responsibility by blaming external factors or even her mental health issues for the state of their marriage. Diana felt ignored and dismissed since he wouldn't accept responsibility. Such behavior made the emotional gap between them even bigger. Diana's letters also show how Charles's lack of interest made it difficult to make up. Charles was emotionally distant, even when she tried to save their relationship, which made it difficult to connect with him in any real way. Instead of dealing with the pain his cheating had caused, he appeared to accept that their marriage was going to end and didn't really try to save it. This lack of regret made Diana's emotional pain worse and stressed that their relationship was beyond repair. How the affair affected William and Harry. Princess Diana's letters reveal the depth of her pain as King Charles's adultery negatively impacted their children William and Harry. As a loving mother, she knew very well how the upheaval in their family life may affect their emotional growth. Diana was worried that the frequent tension and lack of closeness between her and Charles would leave permanent wounds on her boys, which may change how they perceive love, trust, and relationships. She was afraid that they would grow up seeing their father's marriage fall apart, with him putting another woman ahead of his family. Diana said that it was hard to keep them from feeling the full weight of the upheaval while also keeping things routine. Diana tried to shield William and Harry from the worst parts of the situation, but she knew they couldn't avoid the emotional consequences. She talked about how hard it was to be both a strong figure and a calming presence for her kids while dealing with her sadness and mental health issues. The letters show her inner struggle between wanting to give her boys stability and needing to get out of a marriage that was ruining her. In the end, Diana was worried that Charles's cheating and the royal family's lack of concern would have long-lasting effects on how her children saw love, responsibility, and the family they were born into. Camilla's effect on King Charles's choices. Princess Diana's letters show how much power Camilla Parker Bowles had over King Charles's personal and professional choices. They show that she had become so important to Charles that she had more power than his wife. Diana said that Camilla's tastes were becoming more and more important to Charles's decisions, from royal duties to family affairs, and that Diana's voice was frequently left out. She said that Camilla had built up a position of power behind the scenes, gently influencing Charles's choices in ways that made her feel less important. Diana could feel Camilla's unseen hand changing the trajectory of their life, whether it was planning royal events or dealing with family issues. The letters also show that Camilla's influence went beyond just social encounters and had an effect on Charles's mental and emotional health. Diana wrote about how Charles had become so dependent on Camilla's approval that he often put her opinions ahead of those of his advisors, or even his own mother, Queen Elizabeth II. This made Diana feel more and more alone as she tried to assert her authority in the marriage. The fact that Camilla had more power over Charles than she had as his wife simply made the gap between them worse. It made her feel that her place in the royal family was being methodically destroyed. How the royal family treated Princess Diana. Princess Diana's letters provide a brutally honest description of how the royal family treated her when she was married to King Charles. They show a pattern of apathy and emotional neglect that made her suffering worse. The royal family didn't help Charles when he cheated on her or abused her emotionally. Instead, they stayed aloof and impersonal, as if they were more concerned with keeping the monarchy's carefully crafted image than with helping her through her personal problems. Diana talked about how she frequently felt like an outsider in the same institution she had married into. She felt cut off from emotional ties that mattered and had to deal with her anguish on her own. Instead of helping or comforting her, the royal family seemed to expect her to deal with the matter on her own, which reinforced the idea that personal problems were less important than duty. This therapy had a huge effect on my emotions. Diana said that the lack of support from her in-laws made her feel even more abandoned. She felt that her grief was not only invisible, but also not worth talking about. She felt imprisoned and helpless, since she had to keep up a calm and dignified public image while dealing with sorrow and mental health issues in private. Her letters show that she was a lady who badly wanted to be understood and accepted, but the people who should have been there for her were silent. King Charles's focus on Camilla. Princess Diana's letters show how difficult it was for her to see King Charles always putting Camilla Parker Bowles ahead of her and their children. This made her feel even more abandoned and emotionally neglected. Diana said that Charles would frequently postpone family gatherings or royal events to be with Camilla, leaving her to handle their duties on her own. Charles often pulled away emotionally even while he was physically there. His concentration was on Camilla instead of his duties as a husband and parent. Diana felt like she was being ignored because of this ongoing partiality. She began to feel increasingly marginalized in her own marriage. Charles's decisions had a terrible effect on his emotions. Diana spoke about how his regular absences and emotional distance made her feel rejected as his wife and as the mother of their children. Diana felt deeply betrayed when she found out that Charles cared more about his connection with Camilla than his family. Charles let Camilla's influence get in the way of his duties as a father, which made things worse for Diana as a mother. Instead of helping William and Harry, he made things worse for them. Diana's feeling that she was disposable in Charles's sight became stronger as this pattern of neglect weakened the basis of their marriage. The affair's effect on Princess Diana's mental health. Princess Diana's letters show how much King Charles's romance with Camilla Parker Bowles affected her mental health, showing a continuous descent into melancholy, anxiety, and extreme emotional suffering. She said she felt stuck in a cycle of sorrow where the constant public criticism of her marriage just made her private pain worse. She felt useless and inadequate because she kept comparing herself to Camilla and wondering why Charles had chosen another woman over her. Diana talked about how her mental battle showed up in her body, such as sleepless nights, lack of appetite, and times of deep grief that made her feel like she was falling into an abyss with no way out. Diana tried to get help for her mental health and went to therapy, but she didn't feel any better. The stress of her failing marriage and the royal family's lack of concern made it almost hard for her to find peace. Her letters show how deeply hurt she is and how difficult it was for her to live in a marriage where her health was always ignored. The affair was not just a one-time thing. It became a constant source of pain for her, making her mental health problems worse and making her feel completely alone in a world that needed her strength but didn't provide her any. Camilla's place in the royal family. Princess Diana's letters show that she was beginning to understand that Camilla Parker Bowles was not only an affair partner, but also an active member of the royal family. While Diana struggled to gain acceptance, Camilla successfully blended in with the family. Diana was angry because Camilla was able to move about in royal circles and win over important family members, including the Queen, while she was always being watched and felt alone. She said Camilla was not invited to secret royal family parties or talks. Diana felt even more alone as she saw Camilla become a regular part of royal life. This pattern of favoritism made her feel even more alone. Diana's letters show that Camilla's impact went beyond her connection with Charles and quietly changed how the royal family worked. She discussed instances where Camilla's opinions seemed to influence decisions that she and Charles should have made independently. This made her feel more and more helpless. Diana felt even more betrayed when she learned that Camilla had not only Charles's love, but also the royal family's unspoken permission. It became evident that she was not only losing her husband, but also being pushed aside by the very institution she had married into. The Queen's favoritism for Camilla Princess Diana's secret letters show that one of the most hurtful things she realized was that the Queen seemed to prefer Camilla Parker Bowles more and more. Diana struggled to gain acceptance and emotional support from the royal family, whereas Camilla seemed to blend in effortlessly. She frequently got more tolerance and even approbation than Diana ever did. Diana wrote about how Camilla was increasingly becoming involved in royal gatherings and conversations, despite the ongoing scandal regarding her relationship with Charles. Diana felt deeply wounded and increasingly isolated because she believed the Queen's gestures indicated support for Camilla's position within the royal family. Diana was even more upset with the Queen's favoritism since she thought the monarchy had not only tolerated Camilla but also welcomed her, which pushed Diana to the side. She spoke of times when Camilla was allowed into royal circles that she wasn't, which made her feel like an outsider in the same institution she had devoted her life to. Such remarks made her feel even more betrayed, since she realized that the royal family's lack of concern wasn't just passive. In many ways, it was making her pain worse. The long-term effects of Princess Diana's letters. The royal family is shocked by the publication of Princess Diana's private letters. They show how deeply dysfunctional the monarchy really was despite its polished exterior. These new facts call into question the carefully crafted image of the institution, showing a system that put duty and public opinion ahead of the mental health of its members. Diana's remarks depict a terrible image of a lady who was cheated on by her husband and left by the family she married into. Her writings show how much emotional suffering she went through because of the manipulation, neglect, and apathy she experienced. They provide a raw and unedited depiction of the pain she felt in silence. Her letters are strong proof of the psychological warfare launched against her. They show how much strain she was under as a public person and as a wife in a loveless marriage. The royal family's lack of concern, especially the Queen's lack of action and Camilla's growing acceptability in the monarchy, shows how the institution was involved in Diana's misery. The royal family opted to keep things the same instead of stepping in to safeguard one of its most treasured members. This allowed Charles and Camilla's relationship to develop, while Diana had to cope with the consequences. This practice of not speaking out or doing something made her feel even more alone and made her believe that her personal problems were less important than her duties. These new facts had a tremendous effect, making people rethink the monarchy's involvement in Diana's life and the larger effects on how it treats its members. As more and more of these letters come to light, they change how people see the royal family. They make people think about the real cost of being royal and the emotional toll of living up to tradition and expectation. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.